Training camp continues, and we'll also touch on DeShaun Watson and his suspension coming up next on the Wincinnati Podcast.
Yes. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzada, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
How do you balance being a professional athlete and family obligation?
These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time?
Yeah, shock the world.
Welcome to the Wincinnati Podcast. I am your host, Ace Boogie. He is my co-host, Zim. Zim, say what's up.
What is going on? I was just listening to our producer Ryan. His favorite artist, Antonio Bryant, is just tearing it up. And I cannot tell y'all how much Ryan loves AB. So if you guys see him on Twitter, please make sure to send all of your AB dances, all that, put that on. Send it all to Ryan because he's been waiting for it. And
that's cap, Ryan. You love it.
He was so happy. He was so happy before the show. He was like, make sure you guys talk about the greatness of AB and make sure everybody on Twitter knows about it. Other than that, I think we've been having a very strong camp. I'm really excited about it. I could tell, like the excitement of football is back. How you feeling about everything?
I'm feeling great, man. We're going to get into today's show talking about Joe Burrow making an appearance back at camp. We're going to talk about Jamar Chase, whether he's ready for the big leap. And then we're going to talk about some camp breakout stars coming up next. All right, Zim. Joey B was back. He made an appearance on the cart. He was whipping with Joe Mixon, doing a little ghost riding. Came back from that procedure. He had the appendectomy. What does this mean? I think you pretty much said that you thought that he would be back pretty soon. He wasn't throwing, but I pretty much estimate that he will be back soon. They can't keep a guy like Joe off of the field. But I think it was dope to see him show back up. I know they had interviewed Chase, and Chase had mentioned, and this was before he came back, that he saw Joe's car there, and then it seemed like the very next day he returned to practice. What were your thoughts just on him showing up and being
right? Tyler Boyd even said he came back on Friday. I guess the public didn't know about it, so he said he was there on Friday. I just think it's a good feeling when number 9's in the building. Everything happens for a reason. I know day one, Brandon Allen wasn't the greatest, but every single day that I look at this guy, I feel like now he's starting to be like, you know what? I got to do this. I've been doing this my whole life. I got to cook. But seeing Joe B there, seeing him with the amigos, they were all huddled around his cart one time. It's just a beautiful feeling, bro. Like, I can't even imagine what them dudes, like when you see him dropping off Joe Mixon. He's got the Uber 5 stars, with the drop off. Check out this elite delivery right here. So
I noticed that he passed by Mike Brown. I wonder if they raced. Like,
did you see that he was in a scooter? And now this is a shout out to my man Mon. If y'all don't know, watch the Bengals post. My man Jake and Mon been holding it down, been having some really great material. Make sure y'all check that out. But a lot of people ask me what was that on Joe B's arm, and usually you'll have that on there if you have like an extended infection or something like that. So that's something to monitor too. Somebody else had a quote that said, bro, like, this dude would play without a daggone leg. So, it's no surprise he's out there. They probably told him, like, don't even come, but he's Joe. He going to come there. And then, and it's just a good look. I think that, him being there is almost an extension of the coaches, too. And it's like that pressure, like, all right, Joe here. We got to tighten up, y'all. So I do love just seeing him there. Take your time. You weren't going to play in no preseason games anyway, a couple quarters, if that. But him being there, giving tips to guys, that's dope.
Yeah, I think it's dope. Just being the leader, being up there, it almost kind of reminds me of when he came back from the injury. It's not on that level, right? But it kind of sends a message to the team like, our leader is here. We're good to go. We got him in the building, even if he's not taking snaps from up under center. This means a lot with him being back. But one thing that we also want to talk about is Jamar Chase. Obviously, the second half of that dynamic duo, and him in year 2. Brandon Allen has been quoted as saying that it's already scary to see a guy like Chase improve and he's got a lot freer in his routes. He's more disciplined in his routes. I know a lot of people have talked about how fluid and how sharp he's looked in practice, a big contrast compared to last season. But as we spoke about it last season, that was really just kind of a rushed thing, him knocking it off, not playing. Obviously, Chase is looking to elevate his game moving forward. What are your thoughts about Uno in year 2?
Man, I'm looking at the reps, man. I have a moment. Shout out to my man John Sharon had this rep. I think that was the one. Yeah, right here. This is him versus a Woozier. I mean, he's stacking whoever. Like, we seen him burn Eli early in camp. Like, I just feel like he's making our corners better. He's making them look a little silly some days. I just think it's super impressive. Like, you haven't seen, and I didn't care about no drops, but all the writers and stuff, like, no drops. He's just on his stuff. He's in his bag, bro. Like, I came to a realization he's unguardable. And then you're like, I know that sounds crazy, but you know, the great wide receivers always tell us, like, I'm always open. And I just feel like now everything is starting to click and he's just open, bro. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. He's always open. If you give him enough time, I understand that he'll see a lot of double coverages and everything like that. And to me, that's another signal that you're open. And now I'm taking another defender out of your 11 and I'm making them come over here and give this guy attention. Now you got to go and deal with Tyler Boyd. Now you got to deal with Hayden Hurst. Now you got to deal with all these guys. He's looking amazing. They asked him, he had an interview with with NBC.
With Peter King, yeah.
With Peter King, thank you. With Peter King, they asked him specifically, are you better than Justin Jefferson? No hesitation. Yes. And I mean, he talked about the sticky notes on his window, on his mirror, how he feels about everything. How does he feel about, like, life moving forward? How did he deal with Super Bowl adversity? I just feel like he's in his bag, bro. Like, you know, he has to be humble to a certain extent this past season. I think the GQ magazine stuff, everything that you see moving forward, he's just going to be a little bit more boisterous on what he's saying. He's going to talk about a lot of different things. He's still humble. Like, they asked him about Marlon Humphrey the other day. Was that Steve Smith, I think. He wasn't trash talking him. Steve Smith was the one that said, hey, you know, Marlon Humphrey probably not in your top 5 corners because you pretty much cooked them up. And he laughed it off because he knows, like, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. He had some good words about Eli. He was like, Eli's getting on my nerves out here. Like, those are things that he wouldn't have said last season as a rookie.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Like, Uno is, and we were talking before the show, like you said, I think he's going to head into that wide receiver 1 in the league territory. This kid is a rising star. I think you ask any kid under the age of 10, they automatically know exactly who Jamar Chase is. They want to gritty. We've seen how crazy the kids have gone at camp. And one thing that you said is he's humble, man. Like, how many stars do you know that are that young, that are mature to make sure kids at PBS and at the camps get autographs and stuff like that? Like you said, handling those interviews correctly, answering. And I think most guys, like, once they get past that rookie kind of season, they start to mature and become leaders, right? Because now they feel like they had a space to actually go out there and do that. And I think that we are seeing that from Uno. And I am in store, I think, like you said, for a season. I don't think that there's anything, like you said, bro, that this kid can't do. And the thing that makes him so different is he's not Randy Moss. He's not T.O. He's kind of his own person where he's super fast, but he's also super muscular. Like you said, when we saw him in person, like, the upper body build is different. Like, him being built like a running back, I don't think that you get Jamar Chases like that. He's almost kind of a one-of-a-kind kind of player, and I think that he's definitely in for a huge year and a huge career coming up. But next, we want to talk about Jonah Williams and Osai. They had a matchup in camp. You talked to me about Big Whip mentioning that on Twitter, saying that was easy work for Jonah. How do you see these players evolving this season? Jonah had a 77.1 PFF score, but he did allow 8 sacks last season. How do you see him, especially with this kind of being a career, or not a career year, but his contract year for Jonah Williams, especially with an extension potentially on the horizon?
Man, Jonah, I just feel like I people said it's a make or break year. I'm gonna take a page out of what is it? What was the Blackburn that said it? Like, hey, look, you can't just get tackles. You can't get tackles at Walmart. And I feel the same way about Keith Blackburn. Like, shout out to Keith. But you can't get him at Walmart. I really believe in him. Maybe he's not
just
the greatest.
Get the great value in Bobby Hart. Just don't get that brand.
Yeah, shout out to the Buffalo Bills. They told us all season that these guys are the champions on paper, and they got Bobby Hart starting at left guard reps yesterday. So shout out to the Buffalo Bills who are going to go ahead and take home the championship with Bobby Hart starting at left guard.
Good luck.
This is what type of all season type of stuff we're dealing with every single day. It's like they can't tell us a tangible.
They don't have holes, though, Zim. They don't have holes.
They don't have any holes. They don't have any holes.
Bills are the AFC champions. They're going to the Super Bowl. Right. They don't have holes, bro.
They don't have any holes. They're Josh Allen. He's not top 10 in any accuracy, metric or anything like that. But I mean, he's here. He played really well against the Chiefs in the L. But going back to everything about Jonah Williams, though, I feel like Jonah Williams is at that point where I feel like if he's not, I hate to just use like, oh, he's the smartest guy, but he's the most like polished person as far as like his mechanics. I love his work ethic, and I love the mental part that he brings to the game. I just don't think that you can go and just find that in the draft every year, especially when you're not drafting top 10 no more. So like Jonah is the guy for me. I like the kid. Whether I think he's like what Cincinnati really needs is like their version of a Joe Thomas, a guy that just is very steady, plays really, really well on a lot of different seasons. Maybe he has a season not too good sometimes, but at the end of the day, you can count on him.
I think with Jonah, I haven't shied away with certain criticisms from him in the past. Like, I don't think that he's ever been a bad player. I think the biggest concern for me has always been durability. He showed that last season. And I think we have to look at it from a perspective of now he actually has a good tackle on the other side of him. So does that give him some more stability with this being a contract season? I think it does. I mean, I think this was a guy, and I believe we talked to, unfortunately, I forget the reporter, but we talked to a reporter before last season, and they talked about he was just a guy willing to get coached and waiting to be coached by that person. And he finally got that from Frank Pollock last season. And I think that Frank will probably build on that in this offseason. So I think Jonah's going to take a step. I think it's honestly pretty funny when you talk around the division. A lot of people in the AFC North don't really mention Jonah Williams as one of the top tackles in this division. But I honestly think if he has a good season this year, and with the guy up in Baltimore, Ronnie Stanley, being injured and possibly losing a step, I think he could overtake potentially him. Maybe not the kid from Cleveland as the top tackle in the division, but I think his name gets thrown in there, and it should be. And so I think Jonah Williams will do his thing. He could be a potential extension candidate, as some people in the chat have mentioned. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Jonah can build on, especially with an improved line with better pieces where he doesn't have to be the number one guy on that line. But moving forward, what does that mean about Osai? Like, Osai kind of struggled. Does that mean Osai, like on the flip side of this, does this mean that Osai isn't the next Bruce Smith, or is this just Osai getting used to the NFL?
Now, to be fair, Osai did have a good rep against Isaiah Prince. Isaiah Prince looks like bigger than every single person I've ever seen put on football pads.
He did a gritty at that weight. That was kind of wild.
Hey, bro, that I don't know why, like him next to everybody, like he's bigger than like Hill. Like, bro is like 6'7" or something like that. He looks like a giant out that joint. But anyway, like he had a pretty good rep against him. I just think that Osai is like, he's going to be on an uphill climb as the season starts to go. I think he'll ramp it up. Like I'm thankful for Kareem. I'm thankful for Cam Sample, guys that you could rotate in there. And then if Zach Carter is like who we think he is, I think that's a solid.
Not a sponsor of the show, but I think you just got to put a bag of Whataburger in the backfield and just let him hunt, bro. Just let him hunt, and I think that he'll be good to go from there. But let's talk about some stars through the first week.
It was good to see. It was good to see Osai jump through all that stuff, go through the drills, look healthy, be able to go on the field and practice with them dudes in a fully padded practice. Though I do want to say that like that is a big step. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
That is for sure. But we'll talk about the breakout stars from camp so far. Hayden Hurst, we kind of talked about him a little bit last week, but Tyler Boyd was quoted as saying that he was shocked how smooth he was getting in and out of his breaks. Once he gets fundamentally sound in the offense, I think that's when we'll see him explode. That sounds to me like when TJ Houshmandzadeh would talk about Tyler Eifert. And I'm just going to keep bringing the Tyler Eifert comparisons because that's what I think Hayden Hurst has the potential to be. And I think that's what I'm not going to say his potential is to be that, but I'll say that his style is that. Like, if you're giving him a comparison, he's more Tyler Eifert than he is like Jermaine Gresham or CJ Uzomah, right? So I think that's going to be what he brings to this offense. He's really kind of a receiver in the tight end's body. And so I think we'll continue to see him explode. What were your thoughts on him as well? I know we talk about him all the time, but what were your thoughts about Hayden Hurst being the guy that stuck out in camp?
I mean, Hayden Hurst is clearly just look like if you're listening to this podcast,
coverage.
That's a good rep too. It has shades of Logan Wilson and third down on the Super Bowl on that one. Not to give anybody nightmares, but listen, I feel like Hayden Hurst brings this element to him that Uzomah just did not offer. And if you're listening to this podcast in your car right now, you don't see the clips. So maybe go to YouTube and just run our numbers up or whatever. But we got clips on here of Hayden Hurst in a one-on-one against Daxton Hill. Good rep. Just the explosiveness at the line of scrimmage, being able to, get the ball, not lose sight of that and still keep his eyes upfield. It's going to be a scary sight for a lot of teams. There's going to be games that Hayden Hurst is going to have his, like, similar to Uzomah in the Jaguars game. Like, I feel like Hayden Hurst is going to have some moments this year coming up. I think he feels confident. This is the first time he's had a situation that was this favorable, and there's no pressure really on him. Just run your routes and take the one-on-one. Like, you got to think the offense that he came out of with the Ravens or whatever, like, it's tight end heavy. That's a lot of attention. Even with
the Falcons, that's tight end heavy because it was Kyle Pitts.
It's tight end heavy too, and you're fighting for a spot over Pitts. This is the first time like he's a clear-cut number one at the position, no doubt about it. But there's 4 or 5 other guys that teams are scared the crap out. Like, they're super scared of all these other guys out there, and I just think it puts him in a great matchup because he's a lot faster.
And let's be real. Like, if the Bengals, because CJ talked about how the Bengals lowballed him, right? If the Bengals offer him the same contract that they gave Hayden Hurst, don't you feel like the Bengals made the right move? Don't you feel like they paid less for a guy that was potentially could do more than the last guy?
Well, this is the thing. If we get into tight situations and it's 3rd and 2, and Hayden Hurst inline blocking proves to be he's not holding his block on the edge and guys are just coming in from that's something I'm gonna be looking at because I'm not worried about him as a route runner at all. It's a clear upgrade. Him inline blocking to get those short yardage situations is something I'm gonna be paying attention to, and of course health. So that's the other thing that we got to monitor and just make sure, like, you really don't know. That's not something tangible that we can just see right now. We just got to see how it falls. But if he stays healthy, I think they come out on the upper end of this. And I think because of the opportunity in the situation, it will be a favorable contract for both parties too. Like, if he were good in this season, I just think that it's a recipe to get like a really good contract from the Bengals. I think that he'll appreciate the chance that they gave him, and he won't be just like money hungry. I think he'll be more interested in proving a lot of doubters wrong, stack up wins, stack up his resume more so than a guy that was just on some like 1 year prove it. Let me get this and then go fly out somewhere to get a bag. I don't think he's in that mode.
Right. On the flip side of that, on the defense, we're going to talk about some stars from training camp through the first week. Akeem Davis-Gaither, he's getting more reps because Logan Wilson is still recovering. He had a pick 6. This is a guy that I feel like flies under the radar outside of Houday Nation. A lot of people got to see Pratt and Logan Wilson last year. Akeem Davis-Gaither is a guy that could really fit in with those guys, especially for the future of this team. What are your thoughts about ADG? I honestly think that he's in to play a special role, and he's going to be another guy that you add to this versatile defense where he's played safety in the past. He's kind of a smaller guy can also be used as a Swiss Army knife.
Man, Akeem Davis-Gaither can be used so many different ways. That would people that follow me on Instagram, that was the guy that I stood on the table for. If I could go into Paul Brown Stadium, I stood on the table for Akeem Davis-Gaither. You remember the 2019 season ended, and fans were like, "Give us Patrick Queen, give us all these other linebackers." And I wasn't the biggest fan of the Logan Wilson one. I thought it was a good pick. Okay, whatever. But Akeem Davis-Gaither is a guy. I mean, we saw it in the Dolphins game of the 2020 season, whatever. Like him coming around, he was just disrupting plays all over the field, all types of stuff in that game. The way they used him off the edge in that game. Since then, if you're not watching on YouTube, where he gets the pick six or whatever, but this isn't a small guy anymore. He was undersized when he came in, coming playing at Appalachian State. He had to bulk up, get through it, learn how to be a professional. He's a guy that I'd be worried about, like maybe retaining. You know, I don't think it would be a guy like after this season. You know, he had one more season or whatever. But that's a guy that I think a lot of teams will say, okay, y'all built him up in your system, and now we're going to take him from you and offer you a crazy bag. I could see that coming from. He's had a lot of injuries early on or whatever, but I just really feel like people really underestimate what he offered. In the first Ravens game, 34 snaps, had a very good impact on that game. There was a lot of that was missing from him that I think Lou can now get into when we're talking about the whole entire, like this defense being super multiple. You can put him at an edge area and let him and be a hybrid. Am I coming or am I dropping in the coverage? I can go sideline to sideline. I think now he puts it all together and gets us a full season, and sky's the limit for the dude. And he looked good in camp.
Yes, sir. The legend of Evan McPherson continues. This dude is our third star. Obviously taking it for special teams. 65-yard field goal. Could have been good from 70 to 75. Like, for me, this kid, when we drafted him, there were a lot of Justin Tucker comparisons. A lot of people after that Green Bay game got down on the kid. He came back, showed moxie, led the Bengals to the Super Bowl. A lot of people forget that. Like, go back and watch the It Is Us video that the Bengals put out on their YouTube account and look at how important Evan McPherson was to that football team. You talk about the Titans game, you talk about the Chiefs game, picking up where he left off. I feel like the only thing he did that was bad and I didn't even feel like I needed to criticize him, was for him watching the Super Bowl halftime show. But Zim, talk about Evan McPherson and just like what he's done in camp so far and what he means to the Bengals going forward. And look at Lyle. Lyle's getting in on the action there. See, that's why you guys need to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Facts. Lyle was turned. Lyle like that fight that Gunther had early in camp too. He was like, yeah, that's what we about. But McPherson is out there hitting whoppers. I'm talking 75s. Money Mac with the cheese. 75 yarders. Like, yeah, I know it was from 65, but people that were there were like, bro, and you can see in the video, goes an extra 10. So, and he said the longest field goal I've ever kicked is 75. So people are like, hold up, on 4th and 1, why didn't we just kick a field goal? At the time, it was the right thing to do. Like, go for it, go get the yard. But, man, he is a weapon. Ace, do you know who was the highest scoring player in the playoffs for the Bengals?
I would think it was Evan McPherson, just because it's always like they ask that just in general, and it's always the kicker, I think, just from a historic standpoint.
It is kicker. It is Evan McPherson. And I'm going to tell y'all a cheat code. And I want y'all to use this on everybody. When people try to diminish what Joe Burrow did in the playoffs, we all know his last 8 games, including the playoffs, are fuego. They'll say, oh, well, the kicker bailed him out. Cool. Adam Vinatieri has bailed out Tom Brady.
In
every stop of the
Super Bowl, all of
them. Show me a Super Bowl where a field goal didn't make impactful kicks. That's first and foremost. But this is a cheat code. Okay, great. I have a really good kicker. Okay, then the person will say, okay, well, the defense, really stepped up and they carried Joe through the playoffs. Okay, I got a really good defense. Now you're conceding the fact that I have a really good team. And that's what the Cincinnati Bengals is about. As much as we love Joe Burrow, this is a good team. This is a good kicker. These are good depth pieces that we're talking about. And this is the formula for success. When people start talking about injuries, it's because their front office failed them to have depth pieces that are ready. The guys that we're talking about early on in the show are a lot of guys like Osai that we're not counting on to be the starting edge defender. This is a guy on third down packages. Akeem Davis-Gaither, this is a guy that have impactful plays to be, schemed into different things that Lou kind of, conjures up and figures out. But along the way, these are all different steps in the makings of a Super Bowl champion.
This makes it seem like Fat Randy was like a century ago after drafting this kid, doesn't it? It's kind of crazy. The guy that went up to him was number 4. Remember Fat Randy? Remember Mike Nugent and those guys? Those years are done. It's good to have an Evan McPherson. Not only did we go to a Joe Burrow level from Andy Dalton, we also did the same at the kicker position in terms of that upgrade. Definitely looking forward to him moving up this season. But one thing about Evan is that patented smile. But Zim, talk to the people of Cincinnati about our friends at Pierce Dental.
Evan McPherson was definitely smiling at the halftime in Super Bowl with some good old Snoop Dogg playing. I don't know how people say, come on, bro, it's Snoop. But at the end of the day, the Pierce Dental Group, I'm pretty sure they really rock with Snoop Dogg as well. Everything about them is world class. Everything about them is top notch. If you want to get your smile, you want to get everything in your favor when you're walking into a room, take that leap and get you a free consultation with Pierce Dental Group. If you need a dentist, join Pierce Dental Group in Cincinnati, where confidence starts here. Located downtown Cincinnati. They are major players. If you support the Bengals, they have done a lot of different Bengals smiles in there. Check out their Instagram and their Twitter. You'll see some of your favorite players, including Akeem Davis-Gaither in there. So that's really cool too. His daughter was in there with them the other day as well. So a lot of Bengals are really hip to it. Everybody's investing in their smile. You should too.
For sure. Well, next we have to talk about DeShaun Watson. It was announced yesterday that the judge recommends a 6-game suspension. I believe it has up until, I think it's Thursday or Friday, to get upheld by the NFL and Roger Goodell. For me, honestly, I think the NFL kind of dropped the ball here because the judge kind of went with, yes, this guy is guilty, but the NFL currently, by their own rule in the CBA, they don't have anything that would demonstrate what the punishment should be. So really, essentially, the judge put it back in the NFL's hands and went and said, hey, if you had something with the CBA that indicated that this guy should get more than 6 games, then I would be able to do it, but I can't do it. And so I think the NFL dropped the ball here, and I think that they're going to have to go back to the drawing board, maybe in the owners' meetings this offseason, and try to get that remedied, right, for accommodating something like that. But when it comes to the football side of this thing, I'm not too surprised because when I saw the schedule come out, they kind of gave them a little bit of some marshmallows at the beginning of the season, right, with some of those matchups. So I think a 6-game suspension, if the Browns can win about 3 of them, Watson is going to come back and still have a chance to be in the race for the playoffs or the division. So I think that this definitely makes the Browns a legitimate team in the AFC North. I think even the Ravens have to look at the Browns as a formidable rival in this race for the AFC. I think for the Steelers, this is bad news because I don't know about – they're talking about Mason Rudolph right now starting at quarterback, bro. I don't know how that's going to go down. But for me, that was my thoughts on it. The Browns are going to get better. Not much of a surprise, but I still like our chances with number 9. What about you?
I know the Browns they better start off this season. I know they're talking about when we get DeShaun, let's focus on right now. Browns better start off 3-3 or at least, or 4-2 or something, or it's over. I don't care about DeShaun. Bro, if they go 3-3, they gotta come back and win 7 out of 11 games just to get a wild card.
But don't you want them to, so that it can't be an excuse we had Jacoby Brissett at the beginning of the season. If we would have had DeShaun, we would have been right there with y'all. I want it to be bring DeShaun because we get to see you twice, and we're gonna give you that energy both times. Pause.
Right. So the competitor in me, I know I'm not playing on the field. The competitor in me says I want bro out there the whole season because I don't want to hear their mouth. I really don't. I just want that. I want him to play. But me being sensitive to the situation, I just don't, knowing a lot of the information I read, I just didn't feel like that was enough. I'm not a judge. I'm not here to judge him. I just want to talk about this real quick. Josh Gordon, 25-game suspension. Calvin Ridley, 17-game suspension for betting on FanDuel on one bet on his own team. Vontaze Burfict, 12-game suspension from targeting. DeAndre Hopkins, 6-game suspension just for a trace amount of PEDs. The list goes on and on, bro. Like the precedent, if this is, like this, I look at it almost like a court of law. If something were like this to happen again, this is now setting the precedent that you could do this type of stuff and get a slap on the wrist of 6 games. And that part I do not like at all. And I think some of the behavior behind it, the fact that people aren't really like paying attention to like what happened in the case and using. I'm not saying that if you've been a lifelong Browns fan, then you should just burn all your jerseys or something like that, because that's not fair to you. You don't control who's on the team. But putting winning at the forefront where you just don't even care what the players on your team do to get it is just something that doesn't really rub me the right way. That's something for them to have to live with. I don't have to live with it, thankfully. So I don't agree with it, and I don't really understand like how they got to that. Even reading the report from Sue, it's a contradiction to a lot of different findings that she had, and I'm a little confused.
It's because like Sue kind of put it back on the NFL, because the issue is like with the Calvin Ridley thing, that's in the CBA. They say like if you go to DraftKings and you bet like it's this many games, they don't really have that for like the sexual misconduct. So like the closest thing that they had was the Ben Roethlisberger one with 6 games. They need to amend that. Like I would feel like
that's what
they need to amend that like now. Like Goodell could come out. Like this still isn't over. Like Goodell could come out on Thursday, Friday, whenever it is, and be like, nah, we're gonna give him more games than what she recommended. But really, like if you really pay attention, she actually put the ball back in the NFL's court, because she's like, you guys aren't giving me enough to where I can actually suspend him for more games, because you guys didn't even put it in there. So how can I even? But she definitely said like he's super guilty, like super guilty. We're not judge, jury, or executioner, but it's up to the NFL. And I always felt like from day one with this case and with anything that the NFL gets, Roger Goodell always drops the ball with this. Like if this was Adam Silver, this would be the NFL would be run completely different. But this is another thing that the NFL just has a stain on, because they're just literally the worst run professional football league or professional league in sports. But with that being said, on a lighter note, let's talk about some Uno wings, man. You ready to get some Uno wings this season? I know we're going to be in Cincy for the home opener, possibly courtesy of fans of Cincy. But let's get into the Uno wings.
Let's get AB. Let's get AB over there.
Midwest.
Brian, let's get AB over there and then put the Uno on.
Wings. Them bitches got you with them Uno wings. Uno wings. They tell me that them Uno wings will make you do the grenade. Them Uno wings will make you do the grenade. Uno wings. Uno wings. Come and get them Uno wings. Uno wings. Who they gonna be? Them Uno wings. Uno wings. Them bitches got you with them Uno wings. Uno wings. They tell me that them Uno wings will make you do the grenade. Them Uno wings will make you do the grenade.
Shout out to our man Tim at Midwest Best Barbecues. Definitely stop by, get you some ice cream. It's been a hot summer. Definitely check them out.
Hold on. Hot summer, big announcement from Midwest. I see people in the comments saying, I got to go to this place. I'm going to tell you one thing that me and Ace do know. If you like Arnold Palmer's like I do, it's so good that they're finally bottling it up on Friday.
Ooh, I need that.
Starting Friday, they're going to be offering it to the public. So please make sure y'all pull up in Midwest and go and get some of that half and half. Take it home to your family. Because a lot of times people go to eat there and you take your drink and you got that one drink. Now you got the whole jug that the whole family Y'all can drink it all week. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to go get me some when I pull up in town. Week 1 is going to be one of the craziest events in Cincinnati. I mean, bro, like people already tell me about parties and stuff like that, all these different things. I don't know what to do with myself, bro. But Midwest Barbecue is going to be a stop that me and Ace are on 100% going to be at. We're going to go and get us some food, pull up on us, talk to us. This is the best I felt about beating the dog crap out of the black and yellow boys.
Oh, yeah, easily, for sure. For sure. I hope that is Mason Rudolph week 1. I'm hearing that they actually believe in Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky. I think it's either one of those two, but moving forward, there has been some announcements that there could be some potential renovations coming to PBS. This would include a nightclub, sports betting club, which is major, enhanced suites, lighting, fireworks, and screens. I'm just going to say this, like I was telling Zim and Ryan before the show. I think Elizabeth Blackburn is really just taking that education and that career that she started with out in the Fortune 500 and just implementing it with the Bengals. I think it's just brilliant with this. I don't want to give all the credit to her because I'm sure that there's a team of people bringing up some of these ideas, but I think this is brilliant. I just can't wait to see me, Zim, and Yaz, and maybe Joe Goodberry turning up in a nightclub. Maybe we can get Jake Lisco out there. You know what I mean? Try to get him to turn up at the Bengals PBS nightclub. But I think this all in all is a smart business idea. It's a smart way to generate more revenue. It's a smart way to help retain certain players and do certain things, especially with us being a small market team. I think we're living in the moment and doing what Cincinnati does best, which is always bringing your business to the forefront and taking care of it. Zen, what are your thoughts about the renovations and stuff?
It's going to be so lit. It's going to be so lit. I'm telling you now. I was at I told you I was at the mixing party, which was at the casino. And one thing that I'm always mesmerized by, and I don't think people believe me, is how free and how chill the guys on our team are. And they're able to you can just walk up and dap up your favorite player. Like, I know I kind of have some relationships with them, but like at the casino, it was just like the guys was just in there chilling. You know, this isn't some big phenomenon yet, but I think once the casino atmosphere, like all these players that we were talking about as far as free agents, we talking about we need more money. I don't hide behind the fact that we don't have this crazy oil drilling owner or anything like that. I think it's dope in a weird way. Like I think like the new Bengals is like the new, like what I call the Burrow babies or whatever. Like I think it's dope that we embrace like everybody's not rich. And I just think we got to figure out different ways. And this is just their way to get their hustle on for real. Every day I got we was talking about Ross before we got on this. Every day hustling, Elizabeth is hustling. Every day man. I hear hustling for real. So at the end of the day, you know, I'm really excited that like just new avenues. Some things will work, some things won't. I got a new helmet. I got a new nightlife. I might turn up with the gang there. We might have events there. You don't know, but there's all kind of trial and error, and we're moving on the fly, having fun. At the same time, we got the most entertaining football team. Like it's a reason why everybody is in our Twitter spaces every single day. They're not in all of them other joints. I be seeing the Rams spaces and stuff, and shout out to the Rams fans and everything like that. It'd be like 10 people in there. Like every day.
That sounds like how it was at the Super Bowl. It was like hundreds of Bengals fans and thousands of Bengals fans, hundreds of Rams fans. I don't know.
All of these fans,
sounds a little familiar.
You know, all these fans, you know, they have their own spaces that they'll have like Commanders, Dolphins, whatever. And some fan bases are larger than others. The Bengals, I feel like, is probably, if not the biggest, the second or third biggest, like top three as far as Twitter spaces go, or just fan bases on the internet. We represent very well. And it's very common to see all these other fans come into our Twitter space and talk to us about the Bengals because it's very exciting and it's fun. And the weapons, the personnel, all these different things, people are very intrigued by that, bro.
For sure. Well, if you're not only stopping by PBS and you are out of town, because we do have a lot of Bengals fans here in Florida, up in DC, up in the Maryland area, all around, definitely be sure to check out Fans of Cincy. Like that Dallas game is going to be lit. If you're like me and you don't want to have to look at the last minute for your flight, your hotel, and all of that, and it's all booked up, let Fans of Cincy do it. It's a dope website where you can go and book today. All you got to do is put $200 down. Like, that's it. You don't have to pay for everything right now. They got some great packages. You talk about the Tampa Bay game. You talk about the Dallas game. Week 2, if you want to go to Jerry's World, if you want to turn up with the game, that's going to also include different things with the tailgate package where your food will be waiting for you there. Like, everything will pretty much be done for you. You don't have to do anything. They're going to be your travel agent. Check out Fans of Cincy today. Go to their website. Check them out. Get your packages now. I'm telling you, these things are going to go quick. Next thing you know, the New Orleans trip is out there. Like, this package that they got right here, Tampa, New Orleans, Dallas, Nashville. Like, that's major, bro. That's major. You can reserve your spot today with Fans of Cincy. So definitely be sure to do that. And definitely be sure to tune in to the Wincinnati Podcast. You'll catch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate you guys commenting and things of that nature, so we appreciate that. Share this with your friends. Also, listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get that. Zim, before we get out of here, was there anything that you wanted to say, bro?
Don't worry. Normally I talk so daggone much. I don't have anything to say. I'm just let's go. Who they? Yeah.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Who they? Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wincinnati Podcast.
Yes, sir. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Wincinnati, Jimmy Chase, Coach Joe Burrow.
Time to be a Bengals
How do you
fan.
balance being a professional athlete and family obligation?
These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time?
Shock the world.